when I was little, I lived in a double house in the city of Rochester. It was a big house on the corner of Bay Street and Culver Road. Our family lived in the back of the house, and my aunt and my uncle and my cousins lived in the front of the house. This was a house my grandfather bought for his daughters after they married just after World War II. Now, rumor has it that my grandpa did pretty well bootlegging whiskey during the Prohibition, and that's how I got to buy this house, but actually that's a different sermon. Now, my mom's family really was this close-knit Italian-American clan. We were always together, and maybe it was because we lived in the same house, but we ate together most evenings and always on Sunday. My mom's family was loud and passionate. They could yell at you one minute and hug you the next. One time our neighbor asked me, why do they argue all the time? And I was really puzzled because my family didn't argue. We were just, well, colorful. But in January of 1959, our color was surely drained as my grandmother died unexpectedly in a car accident. She was 58, and I had just turned 5. Now, I don't remember my grandmother very well. I mostly remember that she was soft, and she had huge arms that would wrap around me whenever I cried or needed something. And I remember she almost always took my side when my mom was upset about something I had done. And I also remember her smile and her laughter. It could light up a room. Now, when she died, my mom and my aunt went into mourning. It was the custom in 1959 to wear black as a sign of your loss. I think it was a way to say to the world, be easy with me, I'm grieving. Now, my mom and my Aunt Rose said that they did it out of respect, but I really believe it represented their deep sorrow at the situation, and they wore only black for an entire year. They wore black shirtwaist dresses, just plain black cotton shirtwaist dresses every day. Now, when a year had passed, my Aunt Rose began wearing her regular clothes again, but not my mom. She hung on to her sorrow and her mourning clothes through the spring of 1960. It seemed as if she was stuck. Now, our close-knit family included our neighbors, Noelle Walker and her clan. Noelle was my mom and my aunt's best friend. Our houses were so close that you could stand at the kitchen sink washing dishes at our house and talk across the driveway to Noelle, who stood in her kitchen washing dishes. In the summer of 1960, Noelle decided it was time to help my mom move beyond her mourning clothes. I don't really know their conversation or how it came about, but I remember the day as clearly as if it were yesterday. I was sent to stay with my aunt, and my mom and Noelle took the bus downtown to Sibley's. My mom left the house wearing a black shirtwaist dress, and she returned hours later in a cloud of lavender chiffon. I can see her walking from the bus stop toward me, her face lit up with smiles and lavender beads around her neck. I still have those beads. But more than the lavender dress or even the beads, my mom looked different because her light came back. It had been dimmed for a long time by a tragic loss, but she found her light, and she found her color. There's a book by artist Jean Dobie. It's called Making Colors Sing. The author introduces something called mouse colors. That's right, mouse colors, M-O-U-S-E. They're subtle pale colors that when brushed up against a dark color, they illuminate the brilliance of the painting. Now, they're almost imperceptible when you look at them from a distance, but their impact on the painting is profound. Mouse colors create a setting where it's possible for the brilliant color to become into its fullest bloom. Mouse colors are the bit players who help and support the stars. See, I believe there are people in the world who act like mouse colors. They bring light into our dark places. They're most often subtle. And if we're lucky, they come to us with a presence and a gentle influence at exactly the right time. I think of them as light bearers. You see, our friend Noelle in the story about my mom, well, she was a light bearer. She cared for my mother and their relationship by showing up right when she was needed and finding the right path that helped to lead my mom back to the color of her life. In 2006, 1 year after Hurricane Katrina decimated Louisiana, Reverend Martin Valentin offered a sermon at the UU congregation of New Orleans. These congregations had suffered immense challenges, but most congregations struggle from time to time, especially when things are changing. I think her words are relevant to all of us. In her sermon, she described the bearers of light who showed up with aid and support to the congregations of New Orleans, and this is what she said. To be a bearer of light is to hold in the highest esteem the building of relationships. And she said, a bearer of light is not concerned about what they can take, but what they can give to a situation, even one that may rile them. She goes on to tell us that a bearer of light can be a commitment one makes to lighten an experience that might otherwise seem heavy, and to share insight, even when it might be scary to do so. And I thought this was particularly significant. She said, being a light bearer is a commitment to remain calm when all around you the world is spinning, to remain grounded when the urge to take flight is strong, to remain loving when the devil is knocking on your door, pushing you into the abyss of misdirected anger. Who doesn't need people like that in their lives? People who love us and value our relationships and our communities and are committed to holding a lantern when life seems so very dark. I think we all know that our bodies crave light. You can't live in Western New York in February and not know this. Light stimulates our neurotransmitters. It biochemically produces more serotonin. It really improves our mood. But I believe that the spirit craves light as well. We are hungry for illumination, enlightenment, a mystical experience, or, in the language of the Universalist, a gentle stirring of love in our hearts. The presence of spiritual light offers us a sense of healing during difficult times. Our ability to see this light makes it possible to feel a sublime connection to one another. Our separation is blurred, and our ability to deeply understand and see into each other's heart offers us an amazing opportunity for communion. When we do this, we become light bearers to one another. Now, there are times in our life when we live in the light and our world is in Technicolor. And there's other times when we live in the dark, when the black hole of circumstance just kind of sucks us in, where there is no light and we see no color, and even as we look out into our vibrant world, we see black and white. Perhaps we lose someone we love, or we end a relationship, or we simply experience life challenges and life changes, and we can't get drawn into a dark and lonely place during this time. Times of struggle, it's difficult to even see our own light. We find ourselves perhaps living in shadows. We become frightened and sometimes just plain angry. Now, as a young adult, I thought the idea of mourning clothes was silly and outdated. When my mom died, I wore lavender, right? Makes sense. It was her favorite color, after all. But in the months that followed her death, I felt so deeply and profoundly sad. I remember feeling as if I needed and wanted to wear black, because the wound I carried was invisible to other people, but wide open and gaping for me. I lived in the shadows, and I went through my days taking care of my young family with little joy and brilliance. I threw myself into my work, but all my color was drained. And then I got angry. I got angry at anyone, everyone, anything. I was 34, and I was too young to lose my mother. I remember one particular rage that probably shouldn't have happened. I was an adjunct faculty at the School of Labor Relations in Cornell. I got angry because I felt the department was insensitive to my need to have a better syllabus. Yeah, I didn't teach for Cornell again after that. But we've all had times like that, and there were plenty of other times where my anger just was in the front seat of my life. I was, after all, raised by this colorful, expressive group of Italian Americans. It was our way. And anger and rage, well, it's interesting, isn't it? It's an interesting experience to go through. Maybe it happens to you too. I'm thinking I'm not the only one who gets angry from time to time. But for me, it's really a dark shadow, and it's almost always hiding something that I can't or I won't see about myself. I think we all have these kinds of shadows. They're the sorrow and pain that we don't want to see. There are lesser qualities, right? There are meanness or our stinginess or our judgment of others. There are inadequacies, the parts of us that just don't measure up to our self-expectation. And no matter how hard we try, this self-love that Maureen talked to us about in her beautiful meditation is hard to come by when we're angry. Like a dormant virus, these such shadows sneak out, especially during hard times in our life, and it wouldn't be so bad if it just waited for the virus to pass, but I'm afraid all too often we project this shadow onto others, sort of ascribing motives to them that simply aren't true and have more to do with us than with them. These are the times we need light so we can honestly and openly see what is hidden from ourselves. There's a Sufi teaching story about a character, the Mullah of Nasrud. Teaching stories, Islamic teaching stories, are like the parables of Jesus or the koans of the Buddhist tradition. The story goes like this. A man is walking home late at night, and he sees the Mullah Nasrud searching under a street lamp on his hands and knees for something on the ground. Mullah, what have you lost? He asked. The key to my house, Nasrud says. I will help you look for it. Soon both men are down on their knees looking for the key. After a number of minutes, the man asks, where exactly did you drop it? Nasrud waves his arm back toward the darkness. Over there in my house. The first man jumps up. Then why are you looking for it here? Because there's more light here than inside the house. Now, it's pretty clear that Nasrud is looking for something very important. It's a key. And a key can easily symbolize an aspect of ourselves. And aren't we all looking for that key at some point or another? But in this case, the key is in the darkness. And that's where we must look for it. And this is also true of finding the shadow parts of ourselves. It requires us to look into the darkness and uncover the key to our own behavior. This personal darkness is a lonely and frightening place. It is certainly easier to stay away from it and look under the lamppost. But perhaps there's a way to bring light to our dark places, our shadows. Perhaps that's where the light bearers come in. Now, to explain this, I'd like to borrow the concept of light from the Quakers. They believe that there is a light inside each of us, a divine light, they call it. It's more than our intellect, it's more than our conscience. This light within is like a flickering flame deep in our soul. And when we respond to it, when we see it and tend it, it grows to fill our entire life. When this internal light is dim and our shadows are long and dark, another person who sees the light in us can make all the difference in our life. This is the work of the light bearer. They mind the light. They pay close attention to all that connects us. They see beyond the shadows, and they hold a vision of us in the light. They see us as whole and perfect, exactly as we are, even when it's hard for us to see that in ourselves. Now, some people are gifted with this ability. In fact, knowing you for the last year, I can actually say there's a few folks in your congregation who have this incredible gift. And believe me, we're lucky because communities need light bearers. But most of us, well, we're more ordinary. And we need practice. Seeing the light and minding the light in others is actually something we can learn. It takes willingness, it takes commitment, and it takes practice. Because seeing the light in others is easy when they are pleasant, and so much harder when they are annoying or nasty. Not that any of you get that right. Or me either. It's really hard to feel connected and see the light in other people when they are disappointed in you or yelling at you. But that is exactly when it is most important. That is exactly when we all need it the most. If we could wear black mourning clothes when we were lost, or perhaps red when we're enraged with light, or perhaps when we're too tender, we could wear green. We could have an outward sign of our innermost circumstance. Maybe then we could tell the world, be easy with me, I'm hurting, I'm scared. But life isn't like that. There are no uniforms. So maybe the key is to invoke the spirit of love, or if you like, the spirit of God. When we see others in the light of love, we find their challenges are probably no different than our own. We see beyond the shadow to the deep light within, and holding them this way, we ensure that they are touched by life, that we are touched by their pure humanness. The distance between us lessens, and our concerns become each other's concerns. And in this way, we all become bearers of light. We see and we mind the light in one another, and by doing that, our light grows brighter. And together, we bring understanding to the shadows between us. My mother had many challenges in her life, and many shadows. But through it all, there was one constant light bearer, and that was her friend, Noelle. She showed up so many times for us, I can't count. Gently, subtly, she would bring her healing presence exactly when it was needed, and her light helped my family heal over and over again. And I think our light shines brighter now because of her. Noelle is now 86. She's sturdy and strong as ever. And when she hugs you, your life gets better, no matter what. And in her old age, her eyes have turned bright blue, as if she sees you and sparkles, and her own light is so strong that it can no longer be contained. And every time we part, she says, I love you, and namaste. The light in me sees the legacy. May it be so, and amen.
Our closing song is in the Teal book today, number 1008, When Our Heart is in a Holy Place.
When our heart is in a holy place.
join hands with somebody nearby as we extinguish our chalice. Okay. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Go in peace.
Join us for worship every Sunday at 10 a.m. at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Canandaigua, a welcoming congregation. We are located at 3024 Cooley Road, 4 miles west of South Main Street, Canandaigua, just north of the intersection with Routes 5 and 20. Look for the blue signs just before the turn. Your comments about this program or questions about the church are welcome at 585-396-1370 or at our website, www.canandaiguauu.org. Producer and editor, Daniel Brigham.